Welcome to another Indie Dev Showcase, highlighting the many indie games we play here on the channel. If you'd like to submit a game for a future video, please reach out. But otherwise, let's begin. Alright, we are starting things off with Starhunter DX. This is a 2D bullet hell shmup, which has, as you can probably tell by now, a huge 80s vibe. We are hunting down 5 of the most dangerous bounty hunters in the galaxy, and we're going to do that by shooting, dodging, and trying not to get blown up by a whole lot of bullets. This game definitely leans into the bullet hell aspect, and if you're playing this on the higher difficulties, the screen can easily get filled with it. So the twist of this one is that you have a bullet time gauge, and it fills up as you kill enemies and dodge attacks. And when you use it properly, you can destroy or get rid of enemy bullets, and even turn them into gold points, which you can then collect to increase your score. You can also have access to a smart bomb that clears bullets as well. And you'll be making use of that very heavily if you want any chance of surviving the very, very heavy amount of bullets that are coming at you. This would be a game that if you aren't familiar with bullet hell levels of shmupping, you should not be playing this on the higher difficulties at all. But this is one of those games that I enjoyed it, but it can be on the difficult side. And if you aren't used to, again, like this level of shmupping, this one may be a little bit beyond you, and there are other shmups that at least offer, I think, a variety of ways beyond just pixel dodging or hitbox dodging like this. But if you're someone who loves the likes of Dodonpachi and the so many just nightmares of Touhou, then this game I think could be a lot of fun for you. We now have Rise of the Third Power. This is a modern retro RPG. The story page says that it's designed to merge Western and Eastern designs, and while this game does look like your classically styled 16-bit JRPG, it does do several things different to the formula. First off, I really like the aesthetic of this game. Characters have a really nice detail to them. Each one of your party members has unique abilities, as well as specific ways of gaining their energy or their resource for doing special attacks. And this is one of those games where you do need to kind of balance and plan around enemies' buffs, debuffs, and so on if you want to make life easy for you. Unlike other RPGs where there is always that search and the constant need for better gear and equipment, this game basically lets every character upgrade themselves. So every kind of equipment upgrade is a fixed thing that you can find in the world, and there is no kind of min-maxing or swapping out gear along those lines. Now, we only played about, I would say maybe like 40 minutes to an hour to this one on stream, but it definitely shows a lot of very interesting aspects of RPG design. And it's one of those games that I do feel like I want to go back to and kind of see where else the game goes, especially with its party management. As from what we played of it, we kind of stopped just as things were getting a little bit more interesting and they were possibly going to introduce more characters. But this is yet another great example of a solid RPG from an indie dev who is trying to kind of square that circle of making a RPG in the classic sense, but avoiding a lot of the annoyance and pain points of the genre. So if you are an RPG fan, I would definitely recommend at least giving Rise of the Third Power a check and see what you can make of it. And now for something that is certainly not traditional, and that is Iron Lung. This is a short-form horror game from David Szymanski of Dusk fame. You are trapped in a, iron lung of a submarine and sent to a distant moon to take a survey and explore the blood ocean to figure out what is in there and maybe find, I don't know, something wandering around or swimming in it. Your job is to get to specific points in the ocean itself and take photographs of it. You have no vision of the outside, and instead you must navigate via sonar and using a old primitive camera in order to take shots to see where you're at. So In this one, you navigate basically through the entire diegetic UI. You control your XY location, and you'll be able to move and adjust using your coordinates here. When you get warnings, that kind of lets you know that you're about to hit something, or someone, in the ocean itself. And this is one of those games that, admittedly, I'm not a huge fan of. I found the control scheme a little too cumbersome for someone like me. I just had a lot of trouble just trying to figure out why I keep hitting things and running into walls. But this is one of those games, well, as I just sink right there, that you're either going to be all in or all out of. If you're a fan of very unique, very kind of diegetic control schemes, and a little horror, then I think this is a great game for you to play. But if you're someone who likes your games with a little bit more fidelity of control, and being able to kind of see where you're going, this one may not be the best for you. So with that said, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we have 3 more games to look at for the showcase. If you're interested in my thoughts on design, then be sure to check out my game design books. For entry-level students, we have 20 essential games to study, and then the Game Design Deep Dive series that takes an extensive look at different genres, with more coming soon. We now have Lorn's Lure. Now the footage you're seeing is taken from its kind of prologue demo that was released, and what you see may not represent the current version of it, as I keep jumping to my death there. This is an open first-person platforming kind of adventure style game. I know that's a whole lot to say, but we play a robot who's exploring kind of the remnants of the world. Our battery is dying, and the only thing we can do is keep following mysterious sources to see if we can figure out why there is something going on down here, and if there's anyone left alive. So this is a game that is built, as you can probably tell by now, heavily on first-person platforming. You have your movements kind of completely dictated by the physics of your character. Running and making jumping and so on will affect your trajectory, as well as how easy it is to land on platforms. You'll be able to climb using kind of these climbing tools you'll find to just about any surface within reason, but you have a grip meter that you will have to deal with. So this is a game that, this is not about kind of like obstacle focused platforming where there's bullets and turrets and all that trying to get you. This is more lines of, there's that door I need to get to way in the distance. How do I do that without crushing myself or falling into a pit? And the game itself is built linearly. You have fixed locations that you're trying to get to, or fixed points of interest, and you'll need to figure out how to get there any way that you can. This is one of those titles I could see that could be very interesting for speedrunners, especially with some of the tech involved of controlling and manipulating your physics as you're in the air. Now, my main issue that I had with this one, it did feel very easy to get lost in it. And this is one of those games where if you're looking for a vertically balanced or vertically minded platformer, you are going to love this game. But it also means having that hard time with just figuring out, okay, where am I supposed to go? What am I looking for? But if you are someone who's looking for a 3D platformer that is all about jumping, running around, and just exploring to your heart's content, then this could definitely be one that you should be checking out. We now have Telepath Tactics Liberated. This is the kind of remaster of the original Telepath Tactics, and it is designed and pitched as kind of an indie and more involved take on the Fire Emblem tactical strategy or strategy RPG formula. So, as its base game, it follows the same structure and flow of the original, but features updated graphics, UI and UX work, and again, this is a game that is built on the formula of a Fire Emblem, where you'll be managing your units and doing everything that you can to keep your precious squad of individual characters alive. Of course, while dealing with enemies and so on. One of the major points about this game is that there's a lot more, in terms of, no pun intended, of tactics that you can make use of. Being able to pull enemies, blow up the environment, knock them into water, and deal them like that. And it feels like, again, one of those games that if you enjoy the Fire Emblem style, but you're looking for something that is even more advanced in terms of what you can do in it, this is definitely a great game to check out. And the developer is currently working on a new game that's going to take these systems even further, called Together in Battle, that I believe should be due out in 2023. For the last game of our showcase this week, this is Entity Researchers. We're in kind of like an RPG mood, it seems, for this week's showcase. But this is a kind of dark science fiction RPG. We work for a mysterious organization that is tasked with dealing with threats that are infecting and invading our dimension. And we are going to do that by exploring procedurally generated environments, getting into battles, and hopefully not dying. The combat system here is quite interesting. It is built entirely on action commands. You'll use your different abilities, which in turn will have a different action command prompt for you to use. More advanced abilities will have multiple prompts in a single command, and you only have until the kind of bar graph you see on the upper right before you have your turn end. You are free to mix and match your abilities, and you'll unlock more by researching and learning more about the various entities that are coming your way. Beating missions will give you resources which you can add to your character that will enable you to gain more defenses, change your properties, etc. Now, the game also comes with an optional Iron Man difficulty, which also gives you more rewards for playing, but this is a very hard game to play, and the reason is that as you go through the levels, the game has this tendency to kind of surprise you sometimes in terms of enemies. You get into the wrong battle with the wrong skills equipped, and you are dead before you even have a chance to run away. The game also makes use of a real-world timer in terms of what entities and their elements are available. So if you try to play this game, let's say late at night, you're only going to get specific enemies that will show up, which will limit your ability to upgrade and get access to more powers. So you have to kind of play both day and night. This is one of those games that I am really fascinated by in terms of the number of systems and elements available. While it may not have, I think, the same level of approachability as some of the other RPG-style games in this week's showcase, this is one of those titles that if you are looking for something very different, then I highly recommend you check this one out. So with that said, we're going to wrap up this week's showcase here. If you're new, do the liking, subscribing, and commenting. If you want me to tailor your game for a future piece, please get in touch. Check out the Discord and Patreon link down below, and come back for daily discussions on game design here, and on game wisdom, where we examine the art and science of games.